Congratulations on your new RipCurrent S e-bike purchase. This video will be using a RipCurrent S e-bike for assembly, but these instructions also apply to the RipCurrent S step-through. Assembling your new bike is fairly simple and should take less than 1 hour. Start by checking the outer box to ensure there isn't any shipping damage. Open the bottom of the bike box. Then set the box upright, being sure the flaps are out of the way. Slide the box off of the bike. Lay the foam packaging down with the front wheel facing up. Carefully remove the front wheel. And fender. Next, open the foam packaging and remove the parts accessory box. The parts accessory box will include the front skewer, 1 tri-Allen wrench, a 1.5mm Allen wrench, a screwdriver, 2 wrenches, a front reflector, a rear reflector, a bell, a right and left pedal, an axle nut cover, the headlight box, and the battery charger. You will also need scissors or flat side cutters to complete your bike assembly, and a bike pump to add air to the tires if needed. Carefully lift the bike out of the foam. Place the bike on the ground, resting it on the fork saver and rear wheel. Carefully check the bike for any shipping damage. Remove the packaging material from around the bike. Locate the front wheel and remove the plastic caps from both sides of the axle. Now, find the front skewer in the accessory box and remove the nut and spring. Be sure the curved portion of the cam lock is touching the lever and that the spring's smaller side is facing in. Insert the skewer on the drive side of the front wheel. Without touching the brake rotor, place the spring on the other side of the wheel, being sure the skinny side is facing in. Then, place the nut on the skewer and lightly tighten by hand. Before installing the wheel, be sure to check that all components of the quick release are installed and oriented in the correct way. Then remove the fork saver by hand. Cut the zip tie around the brake pad spacer. Then remove the spacer from the front brake pads. Slide the wheel into the dropouts, making sure the rotor slides in between the brake pads and the skewer goes into the dropouts fully. Start adjusting the tension of the quick release by turning the nut. The motion of the lever should have some resistance when it's about halfway closed. If the lever moves too easily, tighten the adjusting nut and try again. Fully tighten the wheel in place by closing the lever into the proper position. It is important that the cam lock is not touching the fork. It must be angled to the front or back of the fork when locked into place. If the top of the lever is touching the fork, the cam lock is not fully closed and the wheel is not properly installed. Be sure to check that the lever and nut are not loose at all. Once the wheel is fully installed, put the kickstand down. Before every ride, it's critical to check that the front wheel is fully tightened and secure. Failure to check the front wheel could result in significant injury to the rider. To install the handlebars, locate the tri-tool in the parts accessory box. Use the 4mm Allen side to loosen the stem bolts from the faceplate. Remove the front plate and bolts. Position the handlebars upright so that the brake levers face forward and the LCD screen is on the left side. Be sure to center the handlebars over the fork. Place the faceplate and bolts on the front of the handlebar and begin to lightly tighten by hand. Maneuver the handlebars until they're in the optimal position for you. Then use the 4mm side of the tri-tool to completely tighten the bolts evenly. Make sure the gap between the faceplate and stem is evenly spaced. Once the handlebars are installed, it's important to check that the brake levers are fully tightened. Use the 4mm side of the tri-tool to loosen the bolt on the brake lever slightly until you're able to maneuver it to the optimal position. Then fully tighten the bolt. Loosen the bolt on the other brake lever and move it to the optimal position, then tighten it fully. To adjust the shifter, locate the tri-tool and use the 5mm Allen side to loosen the bolt and move the shifter to the rider's preferred location. Then secure the shifter by fully tightening the bolt. To install the bell, find the Phillips head screwdriver. Remove the bolt on the back of the bell. Wrap the bell around the right handlebar, being sure the lever is pointing towards the right side of the bike. Insert the bolt on the back and fully tighten with the screwdriver. Adjust the bell position as needed. To install the front reflector, find it in the parts accessory box and loosen the screw on the back of it with the screwdriver. Then place it on the handlebar. Insert the screw back in and fully tighten with the screwdriver. To install the rear reflector, find the red reflector in the parts accessory box. Loosen the screw on the back of the reflector with the screwdriver. Then place it on the seat post. Insert the screw back in and fully tighten. To install the front fender, locate the headlight box, fender, tri-tool, and the 10mm wrench. Remove the bolt, nut, and washer from the arch of the fork by hand. Then remove the headlight, lock washer, longer bolt, black bracket, and nut from the headlight box. And find the bolt, washers, and nut that were just removed from the bike. Next, find the fender. Make sure the bracket is at the front. Slide the fender over the wheel, making sure the bracket is behind the fork arch. Then place the bolt with washer through the bracket. Now put the bolt and bracket through the fork arch and the fender. Put the washer and nut on the back of the bolt and lightly tighten by hand. Using the 5mm side of the tri-tool and 10mm wrench, tighten the bolt and nut down while making sure the headlight mounting bracket is level. Remove the bolt and washer from each fender bracket. Align one of the fender stays with the fender bracket. Insert the bolt and washer through it and begin to lightly tighten by hand. Next, align the other fender stay with the fork bracket and repeat the same steps. Tighten each with the 4mm side of the tri-tool. Place the headlight between the mounting bracket. Slide the bolt through the headlight bracket and headlight. Put the lock washer and nut onto the end of the bolt and lightly tighten by hand. Using the 5mm side of the tri-tool and the 10mm wrench, tighten the bolt and nut down to secure the headlight. To connect the headlight, find the red-tipped cable end coming from the cables near the head tube of the bike and connect it to the cable coming from the back of the headlight. Make sure to line up the notches and arrows, then press them together. The headlight is now connected and ready to use. To install the pedals, locate both the right and left pedals in the parts accessory box and find the 15mm wrench. The left pedal will have the letter L on it and the right pedal will have R. Make sure you use the correct pedal on the correct side. They are not interchangeable. Insert the right pedal on the rider's right side of the bike and turn it clockwise until it's snug. On the rider's left side of the bike, insert the left pedal and tighten it counterclockwise. At this point, the pedals are not fully installed. Use the 15mm wrench to fully tighten each pedal. It's critical that the pedals are tightened firmly in the crank arm to prevent the pedals from loosening while riding, which will result in significant damage to the bike. Before riding, it's important to adjust the seat height on the bike. Stand next to the bike and open the cam lock. Move the seat height to your hip bone. Then close the cam lock to lock the seat in place. The seat will most likely slide around, so be sure to tighten the knob with the 5mm side of the tri-tool. Before heading out, be sure to check the tire pressure and add air to the tires if needed. Next, double-check that all parts and bolts are secure on the bike. Then, turn the battery on by inserting your key and removing the top portion of the battery. Click the power button. Then, turn the key and push the top of the battery into place. Be sure to check that the battery is fully locked into the frame. Then turn the LCD on by holding the power button on the back of the display for about 3 seconds. You're all set to ride faster and farther on your new RipCurrent S e-bike from Juiced.